Good morning. Thank you guys for showing up. We didn't know if we were going to have about 3 people, but we got you with the donuts. So please help yourself to donuts. So I'm Dana. This is Susan. This is Andrew. And welcome to Yes and, what's our title? Improv to make your museum more collaborative, empathetic, and fun. So we're going to have fun today. We're going to be collaborative. We're going to be empathetic. But what I really want to stress is this is not about being funny. This is not stand-up comedy. We're not going to make you guys get up here and perform and do skits. There's this misconception that improv is about performing, and that is not what we're here to do today. We're here to have fun, play some games, and learn how to be collaborative and listen to each other. So a few housekeeping notes. This is going to be very interactive. You're going to be on your feet and moving around. That's why we move the chairs out of the way. And we really invite you to participate. That said, if there's anything that makes you uncomfortable, we're not going to force you to participate, but we want you to join in and be part of this experience. A couple of other notes. This is a safe space, so we want everybody to be comfortable and feel part of the group. You're not going to need your devices today because we're going to be moving around. I feel like I'm forgetting something else. Oh, the most important thing is to just be present and be in the moment. This is going to wake you up, give you some energy. I know it's Friday after karaoke. So
yes, who was there last night?
Yeah, who went to karaoke last night?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Who's done improv before?
Oh,
okay.
Look at that.
Okay. Who has no idea what to expect? Wow, you guys are so brave.
You guys are brave.
Awesome.
Whoop, whoop.
Awesome. So something we're going to all do is when people arrive late, we are going to welcome them like they are our best friend that we haven't seen for 20 years. So if somebody comes in the room, we want them to join in. It doesn't matter if they're late, so let's practice. Like you just came in, we're going to give you a warm welcome.
Woo! Woo, 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 woo.
All right. We are so happy to see you. So that's what we're going to do. When somebody comes in, we're going to welcome them like, oh my God, we haven't seen that person for 20 years. Is there any other housekeeping stuff that I'm
No, I
forgetting?
think that's... so guys,
Yeah.
so we all have boundaries.
Yes.
So I'm not saying that improv is about kind of being comfortable with your boundaries and being able to push past them. However, there are obvious things in this environment that if you're in a partner and you're working with someone and you have a story or you're saying something, is it gonna make them super uncomfortable if I go down this route? Maybe think of another story or another suggestion or another idea, just to keep the really fun atmosphere going.
Yeah, keep it safe for work. Yeah.
Keep it safe for work.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So, can we go to our next slide?
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
This is us.
So, really briefly who we are. I'm Dana Mitroff Silvers. I live in the San Francisco Bay Area. I am a design thinking consultant and a user researcher. I used to be at SF MoMA for many, many years. Now I run a consulting practice. I've been doing improv on and off for about 13 years, dipping in and out of improv at the Berkeley Repertory Theater and at Bay Area Theater Sports. But something to note, all of us, we're not experts. We're here to facilitate your experience. We're not here to teach you. We're not the improv experts. We're here to just have some fun and introduce to you what we love about improv.
I'll go next, I guess.
I've got one here too. No, you got a mic.
Okay, I'm Susan Edwards. I am not an improv expert. I have only been doing it for a couple of years. Taught by Dana, mostly introduced to it by Dana. I have never taken an improv class ever. And I started introducing improv in a small group at the Hammer Museum.
Oh, we've got someone arriving. Woo! Come on in.
We are so happy to see you.
We are so happy to see you. All right, go ahead, Susan.
Andrew, welcome.
Thank you. All right, so I am the newbie to this. If anyone has questions about, we'll talk later. You can ask me questions about how I introduced this in my museum and how it did and didn't work.
Before I introduce who I am, just quickly as well, if in the middle of improv you feel at any point it's like, this is super awkward and I don't know what I'm doing, you can take what's called a failure bow. So at any point you'll be like, I have failed. At that point, everybody else should cheer. Just unload and just give them everything like the people that we welcome in the door.
Yay!
Like that.
We got some coming in. Woo! Come on
Thanks
in.
for coming in.
Yeah.
Come on in. Find a spot on the floor.
Oh,
it's
we got
going to be
another
great.
one. Hi! Come on in.
Thanks for coming in. So I'm Andrew. Some of you may or may not know me. I work with Piction. I am the marketing and community manager there. But as a side note, I also do improv as well. I'm from Austin, and I'm in improv theatre, and I teach improv there as well. I've been doing it for about 4 years now. So if you have any questions and stuff like that, feel free to ask. And yeah, want to jump ahead?
I was just going to say, can you imagine if every time you had a meeting at work and somebody came in late, you did that? Like, everybody smiles. You can't help feeling like, wow, this is going to be fun and different.
Excellent
Yes.
segue,
Oh,
Dana,
wow,
into the
perfect
next
segue.
slide.
Go ahead.
Does this look familiar to any of you? Never seen it.
It's just too nice. Wait. Guys, where was the cheer? You took a bow.
Yeah.
Okay, so we are going to teach you some techniques from improv that we think, that we know are going to help make this space more fun, more inclusive, more empathetic, and hopefully more productive than it is in some of our museums. And that's all I'm going to say.
Oh, okay. Let me jump ahead. So, before we get into stuff, hey, I should be on mic because they're recording me. Hi guys. What is yes and? I mean, it's a really simple. Who's done improv before? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And who's seen improv before? So, like short form, long form, like are we talking like whose line is it anyway? Or we've seen like full kind of plays and things like that, yeah? So how do these people come up and do that? Like how is it possible to create 45 minutes to an hour of literally stuff that's made up? It's a really simple premise. Anyone know about Yes And? Yeah, a few of you guys do know about Yes And. Woo woo! Welcome! Have a seat.
And feel free to come up and get donuts.
Guys, there are donuts up the front, so while the talking part, if you want to get a sugar high before you like get in and do some stuff. Well, I thought I'd go through some of those concepts because there is a practical component to it. It's not just about us having fun today. So how can 2 simple words have such a difference? For example, if I said, I have a gun, but somebody comes to me and says, hey, and my scene partner says, no, that's just your finger, you might get a laugh, but it kind of stops all of the action. And so why is it that we always say no? Well, there are people, this is a quote from Keith Johnstone in Improv, there are people who prefer to say yes, and there are people who prefer to say no. And what's the reason for that? Those who say yes are rewarded by the adventures they have, and those who say no are rewarded by the safety they attain. So we don't always say no or say yes to things that are good or things that are bad. Sometimes no is the unfamiliar. The things that we're unsure about, we tend to say no to. Not because we feel that it's wrong, it's just, it's new to us and it's different and it's much easier to say no. There's no cost. But the risk of taking a yes, like we're saying, we could go to the moon, we could do a bunch of things, but we're so used to saying no. So, what does it mean to yes? So yes is openly and acknowledge and accept what your partner has to offer. So that's, we had someone come in, guys. Woo! So, openly acknowledge and accept. So that's letting your partner or letting whoever you're talking to know that you're listening and you're acknowledging them. That works almost in the way of being able to repeat it back to them or to let them know that you've heard what they've said. And to enhance and heighten with your response. So don't confuse it with its evil twin, yes, but. Because yes, we get that all the time. We call it a shit sandwich. So you get the really positive thing, and then, but, I don't know about that. And then something positive at the end. Yes and is about building on top of an idea. There is no bad idea. Some ideas may not work out, but every idea should have a small moment of light. And if we're already, snuffing that out with our no, that's not really going to work. So that's just a simple concept about yes and. If you guys have some more questions, we'll talk some more about it at the end if you have questions. But let's get everybody up. So we're gonna... And now, one by one, you're all going to come up here and do some stand-up. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, so this one is purely just a warm-up, so let's get everyone together. So if we could form a giant circle, that might be great. I guess our marketing strategy worked.
What was your marketing strategy?
Donuts.
It was a podcast, though.
Okay, so this first one, I'll see if I can get myself over there, is called Crazy Eights. It's not really a game, but it's a warm-up. Let me come to the circle. I hope everyone liked that one. I think I lost my voice on that one.
Okay. Whoops, sorry. Okay, we're going to show you how this next game works, and then you're going to do it with a partner. So Susan and I are going to demo. I'm going to have to put the microphone down just for a second. Yeah, I'm plenty loud. Okay, the way it works is we're just going to count off to 3. And if I screw up or you screw up, you do that failure celebration. Woohoo! So here goes. 1, 2, 3. 3. Woo! 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay. That's all you're doing. And then I'll give you your next instruction. Count up to 3. 1, 2, 3.
But she started it.
Yeah, then you start it. Oh, she's good. 1, 2, 3.
Can we? Huh? Okay.
All right. Okay. We're going to go.
God, hold on a sec. There's an extra rule
Okay.
now.
We're going. If you were confused by the first level, that's okay because it's about to get harder. We're going to the next level. I call it, we're going towards the ninja level. Okay? So we're going to show you what it looks like. We're still trying to count up to 3, and then we'll go back counting up to 3 again, except the second step isn't saying 2, it's clapping. So it's 1, clap, 3. So 1, 3, 1, 3, 1, 3, 1.
Quickly before we continue, we did have someone come in.
And if you screw up, woohoo! Celebrate. So do that with your partner. 1, clap, 3. 1, clap, 3. Okay. Hello, everybody. Okay, but let's finish this. Okay, we are going to now the super ninja level, and Susan and I are going to demonstrate that. Again, we're going up to 3. Instead of saying 3, now we're going to stop. So it's 1, clap, stop. So, So the way this looks, it's 1. Woo, I screwed up. Okay, let's do it again. Okay. Hello. Now what you're going to do, you're going to go back to the very first thing you did. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. The very first thing you did with your partner. Go. Come on in. Woo! Okay, we're going to debrief that. You guys can stop. How was that last round compared to that first? Easy. Why? Why do you think that is? We practiced? Because we're awesome. Thank you. Trust. Someone said trust. Who said trust? Nice. Trust. Who said rhythm? Rhythm. Listening. Yeah. Listening. Why do you think we do that besides it's so fun and wakes us up? Teamwork. What else? Communication. Following directions. It was, nice. Annalisa said it was like they became one person. So they really got in sync, which starts to build empathy. Any other reflections on that? How did you feel when you screwed up at first? Great. Awesome. Ryan felt great? Awesome. Silly? Oh, you didn't screw up. Did anybody find yourself trying really hard not to screw up? I think it's really interesting. It's just a clapping game, but we get so like, oh my God, I have to do it right. And improv is about screwing up. Dan had something. Well, we like to call this more of an activity that we're just here to. Yeah. Yeah, we did have a champion. Yeah. Was there a question or a comment before we move on to our next activity? Okay. Yeah. Interesting. Nice. Very nice.
Oh, that's actually good.
Yeah. Yes. Let's repeat. This was really nice. Let's repeat that.
Is it the second time around when you're just counting off, you've learned to pay attention to your partner and not everything else going on in the room?
That was really nice. I was just going to say the comment about not wanting to let your partner down is a really great lead into some of the improv concepts, because one of the things we talk about in improv is making your partner look good. And we can bring that to the workplace. This is about elevating all of us and making your colleagues and peers look good. Because if we all look good, we do better work. And if we all feel better about ourselves and bring our best selves to work. Okay, we're gonna we're gonna improvise and add another game in. I just want to say you guys are awesome. If you can do that, you can do anything. I mean, seriously, if you can do that, you can go speak to your board. You can go into an impromptu meeting. You can go give a talk. You can do anything, because this takes guts, and you guys did it. So thank you. And you got it. I mean, there was a little confusion, but you did it. So woo! It was awesome. Could you do the next? And I think you're introducing.
So
yes.
We've just done a whole bunch of warm-ups now, guys. So we're going to get a little bit more of some brain thinking now. So we're going to break. How do you want to do it, your one? Is it in a small group? Okay.
Do you want to introduce the section, or want me to just?
So these kinds of games are more some practical applications that you can have for yes and. So we've got ourselves warmed up, got our brains going. So now we're going to try and dig in and find how we can actually use the concept of yes and. And so Dana's going to start this one off with a.
Okay. So Susan and I are going to demo this. So I would like some suggestions where we could take a trip. Bali.
Baltimore.
Where else?
Baltimore.
Wait, I heard Bali, Baltimore.
Detroit.
Detroit.
Zemun.
Zamun.
I heard Zemun.
The grocery store.
Okay, we're going to go with Bali. Oh, woohoo! You guys have perfect timing. We're just explaining the next game, which he's playing. So it's perfect timing. So the way this works is we're going to plan a trip to Bali. Everything I say to Susan, she's going to say no, but, and shoot down every idea I have. So Susan, let's plan a trip to Bali. It is in Southeast Asia, and you're going to love it.
No, but that sounds like that's too far.
Well, I will get a private plane for us.
No, but that's going to be too expensive.
I'll get Pixion to sponsor it.
No, they live in Australia. They're not going to do that.
Oh, but Australia's close to Bali. It's like
That's
No,
true.
but that's too hot, and they talk funny.
So you guys get the idea. Okay, wait, hold on a second. What is another place we could go? Detroit.
Trader Joe's.
What'd you say? Where's that?
It doesn't matter.
London.
Okay, London. How's it gonna work? Get a new partner. Everybody get a new partner and decide.
Find a partner, guys.
Who's gonna go first?
Find someone across the room. Across the room.
All right, time's up. Time's up. Time's up. How was your trip to London? Horrible. You tried? You never got there? You didn't go? Did anybody make it? A maybe.
Cheaters. You shouldn't have gone anywhere.
We're going to do it again, but this time, instead of saying no, but, we're going to say yes and build on our partner's ideas. So, can I have another location for a trip? Cleveland. I'm going to go with Cleveland. The moon. Okay, the moon. The moon. Okay. We're going to do the moon. So, we're going to plan a trip, and Susan's going to say yes and we're going to build on each other's ideas and plan a trip to the moon. So, Susan, let's go to the moon.
Yes, and we can take our own private satellite.
Yes, and we can bring our families on that private satellite.
Oh yes, that would be so fun to play with stars. My daughter would love that.
Oh, yes, and I'll bring my son. And we can invite all our friends and their kids, too.
Oh yes, and we can talk to NASA about getting that special ice cream for the kids.
Yes, and we can do Ben and Jerry's ice cream.
Oh yes, that would be so good. And we're gonna see how many revolutions around the Earth we can go.
Yes, and then we can try to go to Mars after we go around the Earth.
Yes, that would be a great one. And then Jupiter, of course.
Yes, and okay, you guys.
So you guys get the idea, right? They got somewhere but guys, also remember, it's not just the and component. Also remember the yes component. You have to listen almost and identify that what you're saying is an and on top of their yes. Not a
And-
completely different idea you've been saving.
And you guys plan a trip to the moon. Let's go with the moon. Why not? Shoot for the moon. What do you think it's time? Time's up. Time.
Hey, just a quick side note, guys. If you hear clapping, if you guys hear clapping, then start clapping as well. So that will help us all out. So if we need to grab everyone's attention, we'll just start clapping. If you hear clapping, join in on the clapping, and that way we'll grab everyone's attention really quickly.
Okay, so how was your trip to the moon? Awesome. I want to hear about it. Tell me what you did on the moon. What? A book? And a camping ground on the moon. Awesome. You did what? Oh, wow. Awesome. You found love on the moon? With a moon person.
Fly me to the moon.
Oh, the ring is a moon rock. Whoa. A museum's on the moon. Awesome. A lunar beach. So, why do you guys think we do that? Besides it's fun, starting conferences on the moon and finding love. Yes, Liz?
I think it's because you can see how much better it is and how you can get to a solution with yes instead of no.
Absolutely. That beautifully said. Yes,
Can I
please.
go back to that conference room that picture that I showed you guys at the beginning? How many times do you hear people say no in that room? No. What if you said yes and instead?
But you're here joining us.
Well, wait a minute. If we could have a meeting at our museum, we'll host of all of you, then that would work.
Yes, and I'll bring donuts. How did that second round compare to the no butt round? More fun.
And you got somewhere.
It was what? Oh, louder. Yeah, it was louder. Harder. Interesting. You moved forward. You found it harder. You like the no butt.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Yeah,
Erica.
Yes and round, I engaged with more like open possibilities.
Mm.
The no butt round, I was really grounded in like cold, cruel reality.
Yeah.
Then
Yeah.
yes and round, I was like,
So that
There is two different sort of paradigms. Like first, there was a guy advocating and a woman who wasn't advocating.
Yeah.
This one, we're both advocates.
Yeah.
right? So like I was saying before in that opening
Yeah.
comments, for some of you who might have missed the opening slide, if we say no, then we're still rewarded with something. We're rewarded with a safety. We're rewarded of being safe and not having to overextend or doing anything, taking risks. So it's a safe space. No isn't just for things that are bad or bad ideas. They're for things that are unknown and we're not sure about. The yes rewards us with an adventure. So you guys have all seen clearly when you use yes and, we move forward, we go somewhere, we actually productively do something, and no provides us that safety. I can't, that's not a good idea. We can't breathe on the moon. That's gonna last 5 minutes. You go nowhere. So it's just showing the power of you didn't? This just shows the power of two words, how that much they can make a difference.
And I just want to add something that I teach the design thinking process, and we use this phase when we're brainstorming, and people often get uncomfortable because they say, well, we can't do these crazy ideas, this is crazy. But it's so much easier to go to a crazy idea and dial it back than to start with a kind of meh idea and make it better. You have to go here to come back here. So this is about opening up the possibilities and start with crazy, wild ideas like going to the moon and finding love and zero or low gravity arcades. And then we can dial it back to the totally realistic conference on the moon. All right, so let's go to our next game.
So this one is real. Oh, I'm gonna kind of tie it in here, guys. I'm like tethered like the moon. It's like my air. So this one is a really simple game. This one's really about emphasizing active listening and like hearing what your partner is saying. So you basically start a story. So maybe you saw on Twitter yesterday, on my lift ride back from karaoke, whoever went last night, woo, I got into a lift and the lady asked me, she said, Andrew, like, why are you in town? You have a strange accent. It's not really from Pittsburgh. I'm like, thank you. But I told her I was here for the conference and the museum conference, and she said, oh, that's great. And I said, oh yeah, we stopped at the Warhol Museum. So some of you may or may not have seen my tweet, but she was Andy Warhol's great niece, who was my Lyft driver. And it was, if you look at, I posted on Twitter, if you look at her face, she definitely has the Warhol La features because he changed his last name. So, so.
Right. So now I'm going to take that story and repeat it as my story. I'll show you what's going to happen. So I would say, so I was coming back from the Warhol Museum, and I had a Lyft driver. I was coming back from karaoke, and it turned out that she was the niece of Andy Warhol. And that reminds me that you told her you weren't from Pittsburgh, reminds me that I am from Pittsburgh, and that reminds me of my own story that I'm here in Pittsburgh. I grew up here as a kid, and I moved away when I was young, but I ran into my childhood babysitter when I was out walking yesterday to go to a meeting, my childhood babysitter from here in Pittsburgh. So it was kind of amazing. I remember meeting her when I was 7 years old, and she was my babysitter up till about the age of 12.
So you can do this back and forth, but there's one trick that I haven't told you guys yet. So this is a really good strategy for people, this is especially for small talk or conversations where you're a little uncomfortable or talking to someone you don't know. The technique is called A to C. So the A to C technique is I just talked about my Lyft drive. So Lyft, and then the Lyft drive was in Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh reminds me of Sydney. Or childhood babysitter. So you take where you're going, don't take the immediate thing, but take it to a third level out, because it still allows you that middle ground to go back to. So listen to the story, that's the number one important thing. Hear what they're saying, almost try to repeat it back verbatim as though you were telling that story, and then in the join in between, that reminds me of Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh reminds me of my babysitter from 20, and then you have a story that you have in the bag. So, for introverts or people who, sometimes we get a little tongue-tied talking to people, that's a great strategy to go with. So,
And keep going back and forth.
Keep going back and forth as much as you can. So grab a partner you have not talked to, somebody you don't know. If you know everybody, can't help you there. But find someone you don't know. Ryan. Okay, guys. So, I guess clapping didn't work. Oh, thank you. So, that sums up a lot of the games that we're going to play, but we might have a little debrief and talk about some of these things and how you can actually. I mean, we've talked along the way about it. I feel like I just killed the mood. It's like, I'm sorry. I'm sorry giving you information that could help you with your daily lives. Susan, do you want to? So let's just.
If you want to sit or sit on the floor, grab a chair, grab a donut, grab a piece of a donut. Feel free, don't feel afraid to break them up. You like to look at donuts. All right. So what did we learn today? We did talk about it a lot, but how do you guys think you could apply some of these techniques to your real lives? And let's start with personal lives too, but go ahead, Kellyanne. What step in the process is that? And you can include the people you're working with, your clients, in that process. Yeah, yeah. Anyone else? Yeah.
I realized that I didn't cut anyone off when they were talking.
Ooh.
So excited about, juiced up about whatever, I cut people off, and I couldn't cut anyone off.
And so what's the big concept that we talked about that he's using? Listening. Yeah. Improv is a lot about listening, and again, making your partner look good, which includes not cutting them off. Right? Yeah.
I feel like sometimes when I meet people, I'm so involved
Bang.
in I don't know the initial you kind of forget to listen. Sometimes you don't hear their name, and sometimes you meet people and you have to what was your name again? Because you're so it's such a big hurdle to get past that first conversation.
Right.
And so when you really have to listen, it kind of lowers the barrier, and you just naturally remember their name and where they're from, and it's
Right.
the anxiety goes away.
Yeah. Annalisa, and then you're next.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I know that I didn't know less. That's my natural tendency.
Mm-hmm.
I really value yes and, but I noticed that I don't do it.
Yeah.
And the explanation you gave about why the no has been reward was very, very helpful, because that helps me see, oh, okay, I'm saying yes to Stacy, but no to friendship. So I wanted to thank you for sharing that.
It kind of follows onto the session yesterday at the end of the day about change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. You had a comment?
Yes, I mean, I was just gonna say, I started a new job and kind of just jumped right into like, okay, we gotta work now and I gotta do all these tasks and everything. But like the fact of like stopping, listening, and trying to connect to like new coworkers and stuff like that was really, it's a good way to kind of just stop and realize like, yes, the work will be there, but also connecting in a
Right.
like very
Right.
focused way is helpful.
Yeah. Jay.
The rock paper game that we did. I actually am going to bring that back to. We have a big senior staff meeting, which is a ton of people, like your picture, but triple
Improv
it.
with senior staff.
And
Wow.
I'm going to be at the beginning, because what I really liked about it is someone you were competing with, gets right behind you as soon as you made that choice. And then
Right.
everybody keeps getting behind it.
Right.
And that to me
Right.
could be a very
Right. So
fast.
have you guys all heard about how in the Obama White House all the women made a decision to yes each other in meetings and reinforce what they were saying, so that they weren't getting their ideas weren't getting co-opted by the men, who would often swoop in and say, oh, here's an idea that this person over here just said. So this is also part of this empathy, active listening, and also making your partner look really good and making us, lifting everyone up.
Yeah. So like ways we can use this in our daily life. So I'll first address, so introverts. Introverts meeting people the first time, it's terrifying. It's like, that speed dating thing, even for me, it was kind of like, what do I say about myself? It's like, and then we're gonna do the same conversation over and over again. So if you're in a conversation with someone and you have that kind of you're process-minded, then just think of the yes and component. It's kind of like if you're a programmer, you write that program language out. Yes, accept what's coming in. The weather's cold today. Yeah, it is cold today. I forgot to bring several layers of my jacket. And naturally, someone else is going to respond in kind with, yeah, jackets. We're talking about jackets and yes, yes and yes and. And it's gonna get easier. And for extroverts like Samir here and myself, is we have a tendency to not listen, but we wait to talk. Like we're waiting to say what we need to say, but we're not actually listening to what they're saying. And that also echoes across the museum world as well. As institutions, sometimes it's like, yeah, we know what everybody else wants. We are the gatekeepers of all of this information, and therefore we need to push that out. So, and that's the same way when we're listening collaboratively, ideas together, it's think of the yes and, because people are gonna be more willing to support you if you're building on top of what they're saying. And the one big takeaway as well is there are no bad ideas, but if you have a preconceived notion going into a conversation, the one rule when we do improv is you drop that. Even if you think your idea is better, that one came out first, and we're on that now. So by you saying no, you put yourself in safety, but you're also derailing them at the same time. Yeah.
When I first started working in the museum, I came from academia, but when I started working in a museum, I found that there were some very difficult people. And I actually took a class on how to deal with difficult people. And the instructor said to me, said something, and my answer was, well, I want to be the kind of supervisor that I'd like to have. And she said, that's absolutely 100% wrong. She said, if you want people to hear you, you have to talk to them in ways that they will hear you. And that was such a mind-blowing thing for me that I always think about, how can I talk to this particular person in a way that they will hear me, rather than the way I want to be heard.
And the only way you can do that is by hearing what they're saying. And again, take that principle, like if you guys can take it into your daily lives, even just with a conversation outside, consciously think, yes, and then and on top of that. And you watch how far that conversation goes. I'm sure all of us have had that moment where you've gone to approach someone you've never spoken to before, and you're like, where do I go from here? Yeah. So, questions, comments, donut eating still.
So if you're in a yes and frame of mind and you have that difficult person or people who are no buts, so how do you flip it,
So I do this a lot at work, and because I work with a lot of difficult people who always want to find what's wrong with, there's a critical mind that we are trained with in academia, right? Most of us went to graduate school. We are trained to find all the problems with an idea instead of to build ideas. So I literally will, the difficult person who's talking to me, I will literally validate what they're saying, because often they want to know that their concerns are being heard, right? So yes, we need to collect more emails for our email newsletter. And we're doing everything that we can. We're doing this, we're doing this, we're doing this. Try to alleviate their sort of that safety that Andrew talked about. The reason they're saying no is because they want that safety of like things are the way they always are. Validate them that you're not doing radical change, that their concerns are being addressed with the yes and. So yes and can work that way as well.
Keep hammering them, sorry,
Yeah.
hammer music, anyway. With the yes and. Like
Yeah.
you can perpetually continue in that conversation
Yeah.
with them no-butting. Eventually, they'll start to turn around and see that. Because all you're doing there is, again, don't hold on to your own preconceived, like, I want to say something, I want to tell them
Yeah.
something. You're literally dealing with what's coming in. Yes, and then and. And then, oh, yeah,
Yeah.
I want to do that, and why haven't you done that? Or, yeah, that's right, we should address those concerns. And this, and then,
Yeah.
oh, and this,
You
and
can
this.
actually steer people in another direction with yes and
You
also.
You can literally do a yes and warm up to kick off a meeting. I've done it, hard to believe, in many, many museums where you wouldn't believe they would actually do this. And we've done it to kick off a meeting, and it sets the tone. And I even see the naysayers a couple days later saying yes and correcting themselves. So you can do it very explicitly, and it really gets that mindset. And I'll have people tell me years later, that yes and thing was really powerful, and it's changed my life. Yeah.
Combine that yes and with that A to C is what
Yeah.
works for you.
Yeah.
So yes and, and then that
Yeah.
one, yeah, and that, and then
Yeah.
you totally don't, that's a terrible
Deborah.
manipulative thing, but that's kind of what it is.
Deborah. Yeah.
Susan, you mentioned that you tried it, you had wins and losers.
Well, okay, so at the Hammer, we have a small group that meets once a month, the last Monday. We do it on Mondays because the museum's closed. And it's a tiny group. So one of the things I learned, I was like, everyone's gonna love improv, it's fun, right guys? A lot of people at my museum did not wanna, it was scared them. And I've talked to Annalisa about this because we've talked about how introverts and some people have issues with playing games. And the idea of games brings up competition, and I'm gonna lose, and it's anxiety. It's anxiety. I had some coworkers who would come and try, and they were like, "I'm never doing that again. I did it. I tried it. I'm never doing that again." But there's a small core group of people who do this. It's like 6 to 10 of us, depending on the day. And what I see happening, and I think is happening, I hope I'm not just wishful thinking, is that they're really taking the yes and, listening to each other, and they're taking that into their meetings. And that there's this very subversive way in which like other people in the museum are hearing yes and we're up for time. So are feeling that empathy, and that maybe it's getting through the institution in that way.
So thanks everyone. There's some
And then a closing activity.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we're a little over time, but we're gonna do it anyway. Yeah, so it's the resources, if you guys want to take a photo of that, some books that you guys can check out. But we're gonna do one quick activity before we all leave. So I think I might split the group just in four. No, in half. Form a circle, 2 circles, guys, 2 circles. Just quickly form 2 circles. And guys, your shoulders should be touching. So come into like almost a huddle. Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to tell you how this works. You're going to go around and say a word at a time. And we're trying to come up with, we call it a Zen saying, a word at a time saying. When you feel like, after you've said enough words and it feels like full of wisdom and it's pithy, everyone says yes, 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 yes. It'll make sense once you do it. Word at a time. When you feel like it makes sense, you say yes, 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 yes. I'm going to come join this group.